Lo and behold, Mr. Speaker, the next day, which is the 9th of September, these articles came out in the Guardian. And the article is, Piarco Airport cases to be dropped. And it goes on in a sub-headline as preliminary inquiry scrapped. So here it is, we have an email coming from an address of anan@gmail.com to Captain Gary Griffith asking for help to block a story coming out from the Guardian. And the story in fact came out. Interestingly enough, another email the same day at 14:06 says, call a meeting. We need to talk urgently. And Mr. Speaker, you look at the corroboration, date, time and place, and the next thing I see in the newspaper, on the 4 p.m. call special meeting to discuss controversial section. And she chaired a special cabinet meeting at St. Anne's to discuss Section 34 problems, which was raging at that time. So the email seems to have, is a harbinger of things to come. And it came. Call a special meeting. The meeting came on Monday 10th. So an email of Saturday 8th is asking for a special meeting. A special meeting took place on Monday the 10th. I leave it to you to draw your own conclusion. Mr. Speaker, another email. This is now Kamla asking, BPLG@gmail.com, asking Anand, what is going on? Did you see the article? I thought you had friends in the Guardian. How could this happen? Because, of course, the previous email, Mr. Speaker, was the Attorney General asking for help from Captain Griffith to stop the story. He wasn't successful. So somebody's asking him now, how could this happen? And interestingly, Mr. Speaker, the reply comes, I saw the article. Not to worry. Remember, the opposition supported this. That will be our defense. That is the email at 2:51 p.m. from anan@gmail.com. Mr. Speaker, you may recall the effort that the government made and is still making to convince the country and the world that whatever happened with Section 34, the opposition is to be blamed as well. But there's an email here of September 9th where the germ of that idea came out. Remember, the opposition supported this. That will be our defense. Mr. Speaker, but the public was not sidetracked. The temperature began to rise, and the government had questions to answer, and there were strong calls for the dismissal of the Attorney General and the Minister of Justice. So an email goes out at 10:27 p.m. on the 9th of the 12th. And this goes again from the head of the government, according to the email, to the Attorney General. Deal with this mess. Deal with this mess. Did she speak with James? You said she could be trusted. Does she have a copy? A copy of what, Mr. Speaker? What is this copy that she may have, and she being the reporter who the AG was so concerned about, according to the email? What,
Mr. Speaker, please, while the member is using email addresses and so on, please do not refer to Attorney General and Prime Minister. Refer to the email address that you have there on your paper. There's no issue of Prime Minister or Attorney General.
Mr. Speaker, at 10:30 p.m., an email goes out from Anand, whoever he is, and it says, James knows, this is 10:30 p.m., James knows he cannot say anything. I doubt she has a copy. She is bluffing. I will retain him to write a letter refuting what she said. James, there, Mr. Speaker, in my investigation, in the understanding of all of this, is James Lewis, who was the advisor, the QC advisor, whose advice at the time the Attorney General was telling the country, he took that advice and decided not to appeal the matter. But he went on to say in the email at 10:30, I sent out a release already. Remember, everyone supported this. The PNM will lose out for allowing this to happen. Do not worry. So this isn't an email coming from an ANAMD, whoever that person is. But then interestingly enough, Mr. Speaker, 23 minutes after this email is recorded to have been sent, a release is posted by the Attorney General of Trinidad and Tobago on his website. And the release is saying he's taking issue with the article. This is the release that went out 13 minutes, 23 minutes after a notification in an email to whoever he's writing to, KMLA or BP or whatever it is, saying, don't worry, I have just sent out a release. The release is here, and it's interesting to look at the content of the release, and you corroborate the release with the email. And it says, just to give you a little taste of what the email said, Attorney General Anand Ramlogan yesterday condemned an article in the Sunday Guardian newspaper headlined, James Lewis QC upset at preliminary inquiry is scrapped. And then he went on to put up a spirited rejection of the article, which was uncomfortable to him. And the rejection was, this is false, mischievous, malicious, and quite and utterly absurd. This is the release referred to in the email. And it goes on, as per the previous email, to point out it was passed unanimously in both houses and the Senate, where it was supported by both the opposition and the independents. As, of course, that was the content of an earlier email that I read coming from the same source. So, Mr. Speaker, I view this as corroboration of an intent in the email and it arriving a few minutes later on the website. Mr. Speaker, the emails go on. It says, now things didn't boil down for the government. Trouble kept getting worse. So by 1 a.m. on the 10th, an email goes from anan@gmail.com, whoever that is, to GaryGriffith@hotmail.com, whoever that is. And it says, we have a problem. Things are getting heated. We need access to taps in the DPP office.
Oh, yeah.
I want to know his next move. Mr. Speaker, I want to repeat this because I don't expect them on the other side to do other than what they're doing now. I simply want to repeat it. We have a problem. Things are getting heated. I need access to taps in the DPP office. I want to know what his next move is. How soon can you arrange? And of course the captain, whoever he is, Captain Gary Griffith, replies 7 minutes later, I will call SSA and get B. Just bear in mind, Mr. Speaker, the head of the SSA is Bisnath Mirage. This email coming from whoever Gary Griffith captain is to whoever Anand says, I will call SSA and get B. Ganpat is out of the country. He would be against this move. You know he leaks. Now, Mr. Speaker, checks have shown that Officer Ganpat was in fact out of the country at that time, at particular time. And the B, in our interpretation, is the head of the SSA. Now a response comes to him almost immediately by another email. I which is the Annan, whoever that is, I gave instructions to send him Germany for 2 weeks. I want someone to monitor DPP for this week. He made some statements. Cast your mind back, Mr. Speaker, to what was being said in and around the office of the DPP at this time. Mr. Speaker, lo and behold, another email comes out. And this one comes again from whoever the captain is to whoever Annan is. And he says to him, and bear in mind there was a request for access to taps in the DPP office. This one says, everything is already in place in DPP office. Nothing is out of the ordinary yet. In other words, I have nothing to report yet, but things are in place. Spoke with PM and she is furious. I don't know who he's referring to. I don't know who PM is, but she might be somebody we know. But the email says, spoke with PM and she is furious about the article. Furious about the article. What about the reporter? Tagged her as well? This is the Griffith, who is referred to here, whoever that is, asking the Annan if he should tag the reporter. Guardian says she has a copy of Lewis's advice and is just toying with you. She does have someone in the U.S. Embassy and is asking questions. Last time we checked, she contacted Counselor to the Attorney General, Channing Phillips. Do you think someone there is feeding her? Next email from the Annan, and it goes like this. That effing whore don't have S on me. More than likely, she called Thomas at the embassy. This is whoever that person is, the Annan, panicking that a Guardian reporter might have a source at the embassy, and the Thomas referred to here is Thomas Smitham, who is the charge of affairs at the embassy in the absence of a U.S. ambassador. He believes that she's talking to Thomas there. And he instructs the Griffith, whoever that is, do a trace on her. Every reporter has skeletons in the closet, and post it to our Facebook people. Find out how the F she quoted from something she has no access to. I want this by this evening, and I want to know who is the source. Mr. Speaker, interestingly enough, this is the content of that email. And almost like clockwork, this slanderous email that went viral on Denise Wren got into the internet by the Facebook people. And let me repeat what the email said, you know. The email said, do a trace on her. Every reporter has skeletons in the closet, and post it to our Facebook people. Mr. Speaker, soon after, a most vicious and slanderous attack on Denise Wren circulated. And Mr. Speaker, I leave it to you to come to the conclusion as to whether there was any connection between the intent and the instruction of this email and the arrival on the electronic media soon after. Mr. Speaker, and when that instruction was given, the answer from the captain, Gary Griffith at hotmail.com, whoever that is, to annan@gmail.com and annan@tst.net was, yes, boss. That will take the heat off for a while when things pop up. Mr. Speaker, another email, this time from whoever is KAMLABP1@gmail.com. This is now at 9 minutes to midnight. Because, Mr. Speaker, this is now September 10th. They can't sleep. The country in uproar over the reaction to Section 34 and all that went on there. When the rest of us know our beds, 7 minutes to midnight, whoever is KAMLABP@gmail.com can't sleep. An email goes out to whoever is ANANAN@gmail.com, and that subject of that email is urgent. That's the subject, urgent. And it says, the U.S. contacted me and are effing angry. I thought you had a hold on this. This will cause major backlash. They even threaten to blacklist us. Come up with a plan, AG. I assume whoever AG is the person who the email going to. Instruction to come up with a plan. The date, Mr. Speaker, of this email is Tuesday, 10th September at 7 minutes to midnight.